So I was there to basically ask our government to stop investing in new fossil fuels and to expose companies like ExxonMobil and their horrendous greenwashing. Basically, they are saying they are part of this transition with their fancy pictures of turbines and solar panels, yet they're investing massively in continuing to extract fossil fuels all around the world. And actually, we've got already enough oil and gas in those oil fields and those gas fields to take us way beyond that 1.5 degree safe limit that we are already like rushing towards. So it was a two-part thing, really. And our government could easily stop new investments in fossil fuels. It's simple stuff, basically.
We've just seen some pictures of you waving a flag, and a lot of people won't really complain if you've gone into an oil refinery and you've waved something.
This is the difference. I mean, they were targeting a company responsible for what is going on.
I'm afraid I can't hear you guys now.
Oh, sorry. Well, just bear with us. We'll sort that out. Hang on, Etienne.
Yeah.
Go on, Dawn.
Etienne and his colleagues were targeting a company that are responsible and can do something. Insulate Britain are targeting ordinary people who they want to win over. And I know, obviously, Owen's got all the arguments, but they are targeting ordinary people who they want to win over and they're not succeeding. Targeting, maybe, like the animal protesters the other day, targeting DEFRA building. They were targeting a government building. If you could target anything, do that.
Etienne, there's an answer to that. There's a really clear answer to that.
Let's just see if
I thought there would be.
I'm hoping you can hear me, Etienne.
I can now, but I couldn't hear that exchange just now, I'm afraid.
So Dawn was just saying, all right, what you've done is one thing. The trouble comes when you block the road and stop ordinary people getting to work, some of whom, by the way, were delivering home insulation.
Yeah, quite.
Now, how do you justify that?
Well, I suppose we've always got to, my sense is none of this makes sense unless you really zoom out. Yeah, we have to say, this makes sense in the context that we are in a massive emergency. We are facing, an enemy as such that is this a catastrophe waiting for us, and it's coming towards us right now. We have to protest. I really feel very strongly that a small amount of disruption that we're doing now, and I do recognise it causes outrage and it causes difficulties for people. But if it gets it into the news and if it gets people thinking and gets people talking, I believe it is responsible and it is justified to do that, because we are in this situation where if we don't act, we are going to be overwhelmed. We're going to be overrun.
To you, because Dawn disagrees fundamentally with that.
I mean, look, I don't fundamentally disagree with what you've just said, but I think sort of like the way some of the process being done is not helping. And also, we have to talk about the two big elephants in this room, i.e. Russia and China, who are taking no notice whatsoever. I mean, that often trotted out stuff. We produce 1% of carbon emissions. China is 26% plus. We have got rid of all of our... Stop frowning, Owen.
Well, I'll explain why that's just silly.
Oh, I thought you might.
Why is that silly?
Because per capita, China's got a bigger population. Per capita, we have more emissions, and actually China is, despite having a terrible dictatorship, doing far more. Look,
They are building coal-fired power stations as we speak, Owen. They are going to hold us to ransom in the future. Them and Russia. They supply... Let me finish now. They supply gas and energy to us. They can blackmail us. They can switch their supply. We don't have enough.
I'm afraid you've just answered a question yourself without realising it. The fact we're dependent on gas from Russia is a massive problem, which is why we need to invest more renewable energy.
Etienne, why don't you protest outside the Chinese embassy instead?
Well, the thing is, we actually, there was a protest outside the Chinese embassy just the other day. You can go there, but I live in this country, and I believe the UK does have global influence. I know for sure that in this country, the City of London, so much fossil fuel funding comes through our City of London, which our government should, in theory, be able to control. So we do have huge levers to be able to pull in this country, and we are asking our government to do its bit. Sometimes we're kind of like, oh, yeah, the UK, we're global leaders. We have a chance here to make an example. We could immediately stop investing.
The discussion here is about...
We could do this. We've got the power to do that if we used our voices.
We may all agree with the aim. The discussion here about whether Insulate Britain particularly, but protests that target ordinary people backfire. And that's, in the end, it may not be a matter of opinion, this. You may have scored 5-0 against your own team here. You put 5 own goals in the net.
Well, let me be clear. I'm not a member of Insulate Britain, so their tactics and their methods are different than what we're doing, but they are similar. I don't mind and saying that. But the thing is, what we're here saying is that although there's this outrage out there, people saying, oh, everyone hates us. That's not true. When I'm out there doing protests, and I've been in London and I was there yesterday, there are people supporting us. Many, many people say, oh, no, we agree, but they don't feel like confident to say that out loud. And so I think the media here does have a role to play. Instead of focusing on the outrage of a few very angry, loud and people who feel that genuinely, we could also target and focus on the issue at hand.
Just a quick point.
Firstly, one quick point. Sorry.
Well, instinctively, I would always say protest against those with wealth and power. The fact is, though, would you have dedicated an entire slot to discussing the climate emergency, including investing in fossil fuels, if they'd only protested in the way this man has? And the other point is, the big point he just made is the big picture. In 30 years' time, when we are suffering far more severe consequences of the climate emergency, do you think people are going to look back and be more angry at people blocking motorways or the people who yelled at them for doing so in order to raise this issue? And I always think history is a bad, damning judge often. And when we're suffering terrible consequences in the future, people will say, why didn't we all do more?